This video shows the installation of the Falcon shocks leveling system on the Toyota Tacoma. It fits all models from 2016 on. Changing the front shocks requires removal of the front strut assemblies. It is easier to remove both sides at the same time, however this video only shows the step on one side. Detach the brackets for the ABS and brake lines. Disconnect the tie rod by removing the cotter pin and then the nut. If the pin on the ball joint won't release, strike the knuckle with a hammer to loosen it. Remove the nut connecting the sway bar link to the knuckle and detach the sway bar link. You will need to swing the sway bar out of the way, so detach the sway bar link from the other side of the vehicle. Disconnect the upper control arm ball joint from the knuckle. Remove the cotter pin and loosen the nut, but do not remove it. Again, use a hammer and strike the knuckle to loosen it. Remove the 3 upper strut nuts. Remove the lower strut nut and bolt, and then remove the strut from the vehicle. Before installing the front Falcon shocks, you will need to determine the desired ride height. The Tacoma shocks have 3 options: medium, level, and heavy accessory. The shocks are preset to level. This setting will eliminate the need for leveling spacers. The heavy accessory setting is designed for those with heavy bumpers, winches, and other accessories. This setting will maintain a level ride height even with increased weight. Medium puts the ride height as close to the stock ride height as possible. Because of the Falcon shocks' heavy-duty design, it is not possible to leave the Falcon shocks at the stock ride height on the Tacoma. Place the front bump stop onto the shaft with the wide end towards the top. After the ride height has been determined, have a qualified mechanic separate the spring from the original shock and install the spring onto the Falcon shock body. Be sure the grease circ aligns with the center of the gap between the 2 outer studs. The grease circ faces the wheel. Apply anti-seize and run the shaft nut on. Then remove the shock from the compressor, torque to 40 foot-pounds. We found the best way to do this is to use a 19mm crowfoot wrench on the nut and keep the shaft from spinning with an 8mm wrench. If you do it this way, you will need to add 5 foot-pounds to the torque to compensate for the crowfoot wrench. Remove the front skid plate to access the front sway bar brackets. Remove the bracket bolts using 14mm. Use blue thread lock on one of the factory bolts just removed and one of the provided socket head bolts. Slide the relocation bracket into place with the elongated hole towards the rear. Install the socket head bolt into the recessed hole and the factory bolt into the elongated hole. Tighten both bolts to 37 foot-pounds. Loosely install one of the short bolts with a washer into the rear mounting hole. Position the slotted end of the sway bar bracket into the bolt. Install the second short bolt with a washer. Torque both of these bolts to 37 foot-pounds. Take care not to over-tighten these bolts. The relocation bracket is aluminum and can be damaged from over-tightening. With the grease circ facing the wheel, install the upper studs into the strut tower. Set the lower eyelet into place and use the factory hardware, torque to 61 foot-pounds. Return to the top of the strut and torque the nuts to 47 foot-pounds. Reattach the upper control arm to the knuckle by pushing down with a pry bar. Feed the nut onto the ball joint and torque to 81 foot-pounds. If the hole for the cotter pin does not line up, tighten a little more. Never back the nut off, always tighten. Reconnect the sway bar link to the knuckle. Torque to 52 foot-pounds. Reconnect the tie rod. Torque to 67 foot-pounds.
Again, you may have to tighten more to install the cotter pin. Never back the nut off, always tighten.
Reconnect the brackets for the ABS and brake lines. Falcon shocks for the Tacoma are available in a Sport or a Sport tow haul option. While the front shocks remain the same for both kits, the rear shocks for the Sport tow haul feature a 3-position fast adjust knob that allows you to select from one of the 3 options: comfort and control, moderate tow haul, or heavy tow haul. Installation for the Sport and Sport tow haul is the same. This video shows the Sport leveling system installation. Remove the existing shocks. Drill the upper shock mount hole to 7/8 of an inch so the bushing fits correctly. Attach the roost guard to the rear Falcon shocks. Use blue thread lock and tighten to 30 inch-pounds. Orient the shaft down and install the rear Falcon shock with the stickers facing out. The bracket on the top of the shock is an aligning tab. It faces out. Support the rear axle and set the lower eyelet into the shock bracket. Use the factory hardware and torque to 74 foot-pounds. Return to the top and torque the nut to 15 foot-pounds. Loosen the U-bolts and remove the factory bump stops. Set the Falcon bump stop mount into place and tighten down the nuts on the U-bolts evenly, then torque to 80 foot-pounds. Lubricate the Falcon bump stop and install by pushing down while twisting. That's it for this install. Thanks for watching. Now go see what Falcon shocks are made of.